So we're going to just wait a couple of more minutes to see who else is joining. Looks like we have a lot of people jumping on here. I'll just chat about me for a second to get all that junk out of the way. For those of you who don't know me, and even for those of you who do, I'm Barbara Buck, and I have been an intuitive and multidimensional healer since about 2000. I think it's 2000 or 2001, and I've been doing energy healing in one form or another since then. And I do it full time, so that's kind of my career and my passion. I also do grid work, and I've probably been doing it for a lot longer than I even realized. I used to do it kind of consciously, and now I have an agreement basically to allow my higher self to do grid work through me whenever it needs to be done, and I don't really understand what I'm doing sometimes. So I just kind of let my smart part take care of all of that stuff. So what I know about grid work is, limited to my own understanding. I have read up on it a lot. I have done a lot. I have a lot of friends who do it. I've done group projects and things like that. So I know a bit about it. For those of you who are experts and who do it all the time, I don't know how much you'll get out of this conversation. You might get a lot. Thank you for coming anyway. I know it's really helpful for people to hold space for other people who still might be learning. Just a couple little quick pieces of business. If this is a really basic kind of a Gridwork 101, and I am going to have a full workshop on it at some point in the near future, maybe in the next month. I'm going to get something together that goes really deeply, dives deeply into different ways of doing grid work and how to do it effectively, or just how to help you kind of intuitively connect into Mother Gaia, which is what we're working with when we do grid work, along with all of her dimensions and her connection into the galactic community and the universal community. So there's a lot about it that I won't be going over today, but I am going to go over some basic stuff from my perspective of it anyway. So I'm going to give it just another minute, just to let anybody who is kind of just getting ready to get on board, and then I'm going to start. Oh, one more thing too. I have been asked by so many people to start doing mentorship program, and also to do a certification program based on the type of healing work that I do, which is really intuitive multidimensional healing. That's what I do. That's what a lot of us do nowadays. So I am actually going to start doing mentorship programs for people. I'll have 2 tiers to it. The first tier is just going to be for people who want to do self-mastery. And the second tier is going to be for people who actually want to do what I do, who want to become a practitioner and they want to work on other people or animals, whatever they decide to do. I'm really super excited about it. So I was working on my computer today to get it all together so that I can post it for you guys today. And of course, I didn't finish it. So if that's something that you're interested in doing a mentorship program with me to either just work on self-mastery or to, your own skills, or to actually become a certified practitioner or a not certified practitioner, just learn what I learn so that you can do what you want to do. Just private message me and we can chat about it on the phone or something like that. Hi everybody. Okay, Gridwork 101. All right, so first and foremost, I just want to say that everybody has their own unique way of doing grid work because it is an intuitive thing that we do. So it just depends on your skills. Now there's like free form grid work where literally you have no idea what you're doing and you're just blasting energy into the planet, which is super awesome. But there's just so many different ways to do that. There's also really structured ways, like Lisa Renee's group, the energetic synthesis people. They have this specific way of doing it where they go to certain points and things like that. There's so many different ways to do it. We're just going to be talking about the ones that I know about. So if any of you do have different ways of doing it, please by all means chime in, write it in the comments section. You know, this is like, we want everybody to contribute to this because there's so many different ways to do this stuff. Use discernment. And if you have any questions, write them down. And at the end, we're going to do a question and answer. Instead of doing, I was going to do a meditation, but what I decided to do instead is I'm going to actually, I'm going to do a meditation recording in the next couple of days, and I'm going to put that up so that people can use it whenever they want or listen to it whenever they want. It's never fun when you want to do a meditation. You have to listen through all this junk or try to find it on one of these videos. So I decided to go ahead and create one for you guys so that you can use it to kind of play around with grid work a little bit. And then also write down the questions so that I can, we can go through those at the end, because right now they're probably going to get completely lost in the comments, because I tend to not look at the comments because they distract me while I'm doing this stuff. Plus, I haven't done a lot of live videos before, so I'm a newbie, so I can't do 3 things at once yet. I'll get better at it though. Okay. All right, so when we're talking about grid work, what are we even talking about? Right? What the heck is the grid? What grid are we working on? All right, so there, you know, it's really funny is that there's actually a lot of confusion about that, because this is such a multi-layered question. There really are a lot of different grids, because the Earth is multidimensional and so are we. So the Earth has lots of different grids, you know, because on different dimensions. So what we're talking about right now is my interpretation. So the general consensus is that the Earth is surrounded by, and you'll see pictures of it all over the place, it's surrounded by a grid system which is made up of axiotonal lines, which they call ley lines, and points on that lines. They're intersecting lines with points on them. It's really that simple. So what these ley lines or axiotonal lines do is they conduct and transmit energy. So they do it throughout the planet, and it's the beings that live on it. So, and pretty much everything gets, anything organic is connected into this system. So the ley lines are kind of like the macro system of the planetary grid. So when you see a picture, like if you look up, and I'll post some links when we're done, I'll post them in the comments when I'm done, so that you can see the main like ley lines that they always talk about. You'll see them, but each place on the planet has its own kind of micro system as well. So you've got a macro system of larger lines, and then it's like kind of like veins in your body, and then capillaries. There's a larger systems and then smaller systems, but they're all connected into each other and they're all interrelated. And so the same energy that runs through the planetary grids also runs in you. So the planetary grid system is an exact replica of the human energy field, the human energy systems. The ley lines are like the meridians. There's a chakra system that goes along with it. I can't remember where all the chakra points are on the planet right now, but the Earth has chakras. The Earth has, you know, meridian system just like we do, and it's an exact replica, and it's the same energy running through it. What's very cool is that it also has multiple dimensions. So just like you and I have different layers of our energy field, so does the Earth. So a lot of people just think, oh, this 3D, they consider, you know, the ley lines that are directly related to the Earth, but it's also got an energy system that goes up and outside of it, just like we do. So think about it this way. So like matter is energy, right? But it also emits energy. So we as, you know, as beings on this planet, we are matter, we emit energy, we are energy, we emit energy. So does the Earth through the grid system. So this grid system mirrors our own energetic system, including the chakras, and we're totally connected to it, and it's a completely symbiotic relationship. So what we do affects the grid lines. What happens with the grid lines affects us. So we are tied into it. And what's really cool is that not only is the grid system on the planet connected into us, but it's also connected into a galactic system. And then that galactic system is connected into a universal system. So this is a multi-layered thing. And so everything that happens on this planet affects the universe. Everything that happens on this planet, everything that you do affects the grid system and the planet. The planet affects the grid system and the galactic system. The galactic system affects the universal system. Okay, and then so on and so on and so on, because we live in a multiverse reality. Right now we're just kind of, figuring it out as we go. We just see this one universe, but there's a lot of them out there. Okay, so even though you're one little person, you do have an effect. And when a lot of people get together and do grid work together, or we just do anything in general that affects the planet and the planetary grid system, it affects our galactic brothers and sisters. So, which is kind of why they're so interested in us right now, because this isn't just about us, this is about everything. Okay, this is about them too. All right, so what are we, did I talk about intersection lines? No, I did not. Okay, so the points where lines intersect, so you have your grid system, right? And then you got some that go horizontally or diagonally, whatever more than two or more lines get together and create a point, those are power centers. So power centers are really amazing. We've always been drawn to them, always. When you look at sacred places like Hagia Sophia, Notre Dame, or even pyramids, just all of these different places, they're on PowerPoints. And what's really fascinating is even with like ley lines, the major cities of the world, most of them are on ley lines. They're connected into the major ley lines, and they're all connected with each other. So sometimes they're really sacred, wonderful places that are on PowerPoints, and sometimes they're not so nice places on PowerPoints, because a PowerPoint is just a PowerPoint. You can draw a lot of energy from it. Whether it's good energy or not good energy, it boosts up your power system, whatever you're trying to accomplish. Okay, so the cool thing too is that when they talk about bird migration, dolphins, whales, any animal that migrates, they use these ley lines to migrate. A lot of scientists talk about the electromagnetic fields around the planet, but when you look at migratory patterns of birds, butterflies, whales, all that kind of stuff, they're using ley lines and PowerPoints is what they're doing, which I think is really interesting. Okay, all right, so it's an organic system, obviously. The whole, the universe is made up of this grid system, right? So why would we need to do grid work? Why would we need to do it? What would be the importance of that? If it's already set up, it's natural. The problem is that it's no longer natural. Okay, so here's why. So the ascension process. The earth is evolving, and so are we. A lot of people don't understand what this process is. Basically, earth increases frequency, which forces us to shift to the new frequencies and adapt to them physically and energetically. So the earth and actually the sun are driving our ascension process. And most people don't understand this, but that is the truth of it. As the earth frequency shifts, we have to shift. So this planetary grid system activates our bioelectrical fields, our DNA, and this helps us to transmute any patterns and programs that are held in our energetic structures that might be keeping us from moving into higher dimensions, from becoming more aware of our multidimensionality and integrating our multidimensionality. So what's interesting is that there was an original ascension plan that it was to complete, or not complete, but at least to have a large portion of the population getting to a point of where we were moving into a fifth dimensional aspect of selves and actually consciously living in a 5D planet with 5D humans by December of 2012. You know, our whole galactic brothers and sisters and the dimensions around us, everybody's like sitting there with bated breath, eating popcorn, drinking wine, whatever they do out there. Just because when we move up, it's like it affects all of them, right? So they're just sitting there waiting. And right about like 2000, they're like, you know what? I don't think they're going to make it. It's not looking good. And the reason for that is because we have a lot of interference. We have, you know, then whatever your belief system is, there are energies out there that they don't want us to go through the ascension process, because then they lose their food. You know, we call it the negative alien agenda. You can call it whatever you want. But the truth is that they don't want human beings to move forward, because that would mean that they don't have anything to control that they can feed off of or use for power, which is what they're doing with us right now. So all of that interference on it's not just directed towards us humans, it's also directed toward the planet as well, because the planet is a living being that we are all connected to, Mother Gaia. It has a specific energetic frequency, and so what they do is they mess with us, they mess with our meridian system by implantation process and attachments of entities and things like that. And with the Earth's grid system, what they do is they hijack it. They hijack power points that are really super important, and they use them as frequency, negative frequency generators, but then they will also use them as soul traps. All different kinds of like kind of crazy things. When Notre Dame burned to the ground, that's a PowerPoint in that area that was holding thousands upon tens of thousands of spirits were trapped in there. Okay, so a lot of people understand this, and by that church burning down, believe it or not, it actually released like all this energy that had been trapped in there for a really long time. So you've got that in the grid system. You've also got just a lot of frequency interference. There's technology. There's all kind of things that they do to make sure that the Earth is not, the energy is not flowing properly in the Earth system. So, okay, so because of all of that interference, sorry I babble on a lot about that stuff. That's a whole nother topic for discussion at a later date. But because of this interference on the planet, it's people, the gateways, the portals into other star systems and other dimensions and things like that. On a multi-dimensional level, Plan A was aborted, and they went to Ascension Plan B. So basically, we were not getting enough energy that we needed to go through the shift, because the planet had so many blocks on its grid system. And believe me, people knew that this was going to happen, or they had an idea. There have been people doing grid work, practicing grid work on this planet ever since interference started. Okay, so what Plan B involves, it involves a neighboring universe. Okay, people, there's different people call it different things. Lisa Renee calls it the Aurora. Other people call it the rainbow universe, the rainbow tribe, the rainbow people. There's all these different, but usually you use rainbow is connected into it because they are these guys that generate this gold, silver, magenta, emerald, aquamarine frequencies that we're using right now to push us through the ascension process. So basically what they did was they decided, and they chose to host our ascension process. So what this means is that they're sharing their rainbow frequencies with us to anchor it into the planetary network to help clear the interference that we're experiencing, that the planet is experiencing, so that we and help to activate us so that we can move forward with our ascension process. So there are grid workers here. Oh, also too, they created what's called the crystal star, made up of these frequencies, these light frequencies. They constructed it in the center of the earth. It was constructed outside of the earth, and now it is in the center of the earth. They put it in the center of the earth to help us to anchor these frequencies into the grid system and onto the planet, because they weren't there before. And so that needed to be done. That's part of what grid workers have been doing for a really long time, is they've been anchoring frequencies into the grid system so that they can be used by everybody else to shift. Sorry, I have notes here. So a lot of us also shifted mission right around that time. To kind of become anchors for these frequencies and activate others to them as well. So people shifted from just becoming healers and doing that kind of stuff and just doing general grid work to keep the grids clear, to actually anchoring these frequencies. I was one of those people. I started anchoring in the Blu-ray frequency from the Aurora. I didn't know what it was at the time. So I just started connecting in with this blue energy, this beautiful kind of aquamarine color energy, turquoise color energy. And I started sitting with it and anchoring it in. And then people started wanting to come and meditate with me when I was doing it, because they were having healings. So it was really neat. And I anchored it in with, I'm sure, a lot of other people that I never met for a couple of years. And then it just stopped being necessary for me to do so. So I would meditate and it just didn't really show up. So, you know, that happened with a lot of us. Okay, so basically what grid workers are doing is they're clearing the way for these frequencies to flow properly, and they're doing it all over the world. So wherever there is interference, whether it's technology that's there, physical or etheric technology. I know grid workers who also, because a lot of the new technology that we have, cell service, you know, 5G, all of this junk that we have going on right now, I know grid workers who will go and, you know, get a bunch of plasterite towers and put them all over the place to help keep that energy clear. We'll talk about that in a minute, though. Also, because of this mission upgrade, so what's happened is like, as the earth is kind of re-encrypting, so to speak, so are our blueprints that we received at birth. So we all kind of we're born, we accept this kind of a, I guess you'd call it a miasmatic package of not so nice stuff. You know, you've got shadow phantom bodies, you know, negative forms of humanity, so to speak, that when we're born, we get this bum deal. Here you go. Here's all this crap. Now you've got to clear. And I say that in a loving way, because, you know, we're doing our job by doing that. But so this packet actually connects us into the negative alien agenda, and also the timelines that support the negative alien agenda, meaning there are many timelines out there where the negative alien agenda does not exist. And for many of us, we are evolving onto those timelines. And some of us also actually are not just evolving onto those timelines, but we move back and forth between them so that we can do our work. So one day we'll have a nice happy day in this beautiful NAA free timeline, and then the next day we wake up and we're like, you know, we have to, you know, deal with all of this crap that we have to clear and clean, and everybody's being horrible, and there's all this work that we have to do to help with it. So we have to kind of go back into the trenches and go deal with all that stuff. Okay, so that was a big mission upgrade for a lot of us, and the Aurora frequencies actually help us clear the false timelines even that the NAA created. That's a whole nother story too. That's a whole nother video in and of itself, which I'll do sometime. I probably want to do that with like Matthew, because Matthew like knows a lot about timelines and things too. Okay, so let's talk about different types of grid workers. Okay, so now I don't really have names for them. I'll tell you what I call them. One of them is, I call them code droppers, and frequency keepers or frequency holders. So Dolores Cannon, she has this cool thing. She talks about the 3 waves of star seeds. Okay, a lot of star seeds came down here specifically to help with the grids on the planet. But the three waves are the first wave, which I am in, are there anywhere from like 40s to early 60s or before 60. There are some that are a little bit older than that, but we came first wave to kind of start clearing the energy out for the second wave to come in. The second wave, they're born with a higher frequency. They're born with more of a connection to these higher frequencies that we had when we were born. So they actually are like 25 to 40, and they hold a lot of energy in their body already. And they also hold codes in their body that people like me didn't have until I started doing my self-work and healing, and got to a certain point in my 40s where I could hold those codes and help download them onto the planet and things like that. But there are people, and also 25 and younger, early teens, that's the third wave, where they basically have everything. They have all the codes and everything like that, and all the frequencies that they need. But so code droppers and frequency holders, there are people who just have these big fabulous energy fields just filled with all kinds of frequency, different connections to frequencies and activation codes and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of people are just, they don't realize that they're like this, and they subconsciously will just kind of wander off to a certain location, and they, just by being in there, in whatever part of the grid they are, it helps to heal the grid. And it helps to heal humanity. So this is kind of a really cool thing. Now, some people are very conscious of this, so they consciously move around. I know a lot of young ones in their 20s, millennials or whatever you want to call them, in their 20s, who are actually consciously do this. They go around and they live in their van, they live in their car, they do whatever they can to just drive around and be frequency holder for specific spaces. So people can consciously do this or subconsciously do it. There are people like me. I also am a code dropper and a frequency holder, but again, it didn't come till much later in life, probably in my mid 40s. But I'm also somebody who, like many people, have an agreement to be used by my higher self for grid work whenever and wherever it's needed and however it's needed. So some people are not conscious of what's happening, and if they are, they don't understand what's happening. It's just part of their process. For me, I have an idea when I am doing grid work that I didn't sit down specifically on purpose to do, and it's really fascinating because I used to do grid work like consciously, but now I don't at all, because what happens is all of a sudden there's all these frequencies that come in, and I can see all these crystalline, it almost looks like machines going and doing all this stuff on the planet. So there's all this crazy stuff that I'm doing that I couldn't figure out how, and all this geometry that I've never seen before. Literally, there's all this stuff going on, and I don't know what it is. So I just step out of the way and I just let it happen. So there are a lot of people who have agreements to do that. Some people who have those kind of agreements, they do it in their dream state. So they'll wake up having all of this, recognizing that they've done all this work and they have no idea what it is. There's a lot of people who are unconscious. They literally will travel around a lot, and maybe they're always losing their job and they're always wanting to move from place to place to place to place, and or they can't keep a girlfriend or anything like that, and everyone's just like, whoa, they're a bunch of flaky hippies. But in all honesty, this is an agreement that they have to move around and share their energy, and they aren't even aware of it, which I always find that kind of fascinating. It's why I never judge people for that kind of lifestyle that might look flaky, just because that might be what's going on, especially people under 30, because of the way that their frequencies are. All right. There are also people who consciously or intuitively guided to go to specific locations that need work. There will be group projects that happen where thousands of people are working on a specific location. The most recent one that I saw was like Stonehenge, or I think it was Stonehenge, where they're working to do something specific. So like maybe that PowerPoint or that location on the grid is been completely hijacked and creating a lot of negative energy, or it's a soul trap, or it's being used to generate energy that's not too pleasant. So, or, you know, it's a prison system. So people will go in and literally go to the physical location and work on it. There are people who prefer to just use and travel there with their light bodies to those locations as well. So instead of physically going there, they use their light body to go there. You know, you could call it astral projection, but it's not really. Also, there are people who work on grids from specific timelines. I'm one of those too. Each timeline has its own grid system. So, and timelines are really interesting because when you work on the grid systems for something like, say, there's an Armageddon timeline where we actually like all, you know, go through this Armageddon experience and we all have memories of it. Or there's timelines where the Nazis won the war. There's all of these different timelines. It's really fascinating. Okay. All right, so that's it for types of grid workers. So now I kind of want to talk about tools and techniques. And this is, again, going to be really super basic so that you guys just have a really basic understanding of the different kind of things out there. If you want to get really dive deep into it, I can give you information about how to do that, maybe different websites or some books or something like that. Mostly I just prefer that people use their own intuition on how to do things. But I think that it's good to have some kind of a basic idea to kind of open up your mind a little bit about all the different ways that you can do this. So the first tool that is your best tool as a grid worker to use is this, the body. Okay, your body next to your higher mind is the most important tool that you have as a grid worker. Okay, your body is liquid crystal. It's a liquid crystal. So it is an awesome frequency holder. It's an awesome frequency mover and shifter, okay? Keeping your body as clean and clear as possible as a grid worker and as high vibration as possible is very super helpful because it helps the energy flow through you without too much obstruction. Also, keeping yourself etherically clear as well as a grid worker is very important. I know a lot of grid workers who get you know, a lot of etheric situations happening with entities and blocks and things like that. And they don't bother to clear them, or they don't know how or even know that they exist just because of what they do. And keeping yourself free and clear of all that stuff is really super important and helpful when you're doing this stuff. Every step that you take, everything that you do feeds into the grid system. So even if you're not consciously doing it, you're doing it. Okay. Sound is also kind of part of the body thing as well. So sound, mantras, toning, chanting, prayer, that kind of thing is also really helpful when you're working on the grids. So people have their own, like Matthew does, he helps you with your soul tone. So like he'll create this tone that is, it has to do with your energetic configuration and your makeup. And forgive me if I'm wrong, if he's here watching. Oh, yes, you are. I see a little picture up there. But so the earth also has tones as well. And so you can kind of intuitively sit and start matching the tone however you want, with song, with crystal bowls, whatever floats your guitar, whatever floats your boat. The grid system loves beautiful tones that you're sending into it with intention. Okay. Bringing down, so there's the easiest way to do grid work is called running the grids. That's it. It's that easy. Basically, you just sit. Now, for some people, what they're doing is they're going to move energy like that. Maybe it's a specific frequency of energy that you're connected into, and they're moving it down through their body and into the system with the intention to clear whatever is there, regardless of what you see. I mean, you're not even doing anything. You're just literally just moving the energy down into the grid system. It's just called running energy. So whatever frequency that you use is going to do whatever it's supposed to do. You're just kind of letting the frequency, which all light has information and intelligence to it. So usually it knows what to do and where to go. There's something that I do want to share with you about just running grids and just sitting, and when you're using light frequencies. So like, let's say for me personally, I'm a blue person. I have a lot of blue energy in my field. And so that's something that naturally grows into the grid system, and the grid system kind of likes it. But I also like to use golden frequency as well, because I know that that can really clear a lot of interference. And for me, my mission here is to clear as much of this interference as I possibly can within the planet and within the humans on it, and animals too. I work with a lot of animals clearing interference. So that's kind of what I do. I know that other people are here for restructuring and all kinds of other stuff. But for me, that's just what I do. I'm kind of blasting all of that stuff out of here. One thing that is very important for people who are just starting out doing grid workers, who are just starting out to understand about white light. There is false white light. That is a thing. So white light, it's very hard to tell the difference between pure white light and false white light. False white light has a frequency that actually lowers the frequency of human beings. It lowers the frequency of the energy on the planet and things like that. So until you get very clear energetically, the best thing that you want to do is you want to start using a really lovely frequency like gold or magenta, emerald, blue, all of these, hi Alexis, all of these different things. I just got heart bombed by Alexis Buck, by the way. So that's my favorite part of this whole thing, getting heart bombed by Alexis Buck. Okay, so that's just something that you should be aware of, that false white light is actually a thing. So some people don't kind of agree with that, and that's okay. Do what you got to do. But it's something that I've noticed, and it can really kind of cause you a lot of problems. All right. I have old school notes printed on paper. Okay. All right, crystals. We love crystals. I don't use crystals when I'm setting up grids anymore. I did for a really, really long time. But here's what the cool thing about crystals is, and since Alexis is here, crystals don't just have to be bought in a store, in a shop. There's actually, if you just use the natural rocks around the location where you are, they have crystals in them as well, that are part of that grid system that you're going to be working on. So what a basic crystal grid is it's a center stone, and then a stone north, south, east, west, and then whatever else you want to do. That's it. It doesn't even have to be north, south, east, west. It could just be a stone in the center, a point here, a point here, a point here, a point here. What Alexis does is she actually makes a circle of rocks that she lets the rocks choose where they want to be. And then she puts a beautiful stone, and I had the pleasure of getting to do this with her, and I now do this everywhere I go, believe it or not. It's just one of my favorite ways to do grid work now. And then she finds a center stone, and maybe not, you know, it just kind of all depends. And then she stands in there, and I can't tell you what she does, but I know that it's a prayer, that it's an intention that she brings in. A request or an intention, or, you know, whatever beautiful thing that she does, and it clears the space, and it clears it really fast, and then she leaves that circle there so that that energy, that circle is programmed with this intention that she has. So the cool thing about crystals and stones is that they are programmable. They retain information, that you can program them with whatever you want. So when you're doing grid work, not only do they program things, but they also amplify energy towards that specific intention. So you can even direct your consciousness into that stone to serve as like a surrogate. It's really fascinating. So, you know, we're cells, we're crystals, we're liquid crystals in the energy body of the planet. So there's lots of different ways that you can use them. Some people like to bury a crystal with intention in a specific location that will continually work on the grid system. And then every time they're there or they think of it, they'll charge it up with their light body, or they'll actually go to the location and charge it up. This is a really cool way to do crystals. A lot of people get really elaborate crystal grids. I used to love doing that. I love my crystals, and I would make these incredible intuitive grids and put all my intentions in there, and then let the grid kind of do its magic as opposed to me using my body. But now I just use my body when I'm doing grid work. Another thing that people do that I have never done, I've done dowsing, but I've never used it for grid work, is they use dowsing rods to try to find little parts of the grid that might not be doing so well, that might need a little extra love. I think that's pretty cool. I use my intuitive abilities, but if you're still kind of learning how to use your intuition and are not quite dialed in yet, you can use dowsing rods to find locations that might need some help. A lot of people like to use sacred geometry too. They'll draw different geometric patterns into the ground to help do grid work with the intention of it going into the grid system and clearing and things like that. I haven't ever done that either, but I think it's a cool, interesting way to do it. My personal technique is just running the grid. Whether I'm in my light body or I'm in my physical body, I just literally just blast it down through and out with all the love that I can muster and joy that I can muster to put it into that grid system. I do, like I said, my higher self does a lot of work through me that I don't really understand. So I couldn't explain it to you at all. But I understand that what it's doing is it's taking out a lot of technical structures and things like that that are hijacking the energy and decreasing the flow on the planet. Me and a lot of other people. It's not just me. Just always make sure when you're doing grid work that you are heart-centered. You're focusing your mind and you're focusing your heart on the work at hand. That is the most important thing. Joy, heart, love, that kind of stuff. Your greatest contribution as a grid worker is when you are fully aligned with your higher mind and with source, and raising your vibration as high as you can when you're doing the work. That's just a key component in doing it. Power of word is really helpful as well, whether you say it out loud or even if it's just an intention in your mind. You know, claiming your power and your wisdom and divine grace and authority. And I prefer to speak aloud when I am doing grid work, and my intention, I am speaking it aloud not only to the planet, but to anybody who might not be having our best and highest good, to let them know that this space is now ours. Go Team Light. Also, any elementals that might be in the area that are offering their services to help us to keep the grid patterns clean, because they are affected by it just like we are, and they're very, very, very happy that we are doing grid work now, especially because it helps them as well. So I like to say it out loud myself. There's a few things that you guys should know when you're doing grid work. One is kind of making sure that you're, you know, people called it shielding and protection. I don't like those words. But, you know, understand that there is interference. When we do grid work, you know, sometimes we can run into stuff that's not so nice, that's really, really doesn't want us to be there, taking away their little, you know, place there. So it's important to basically kind of maintain your activated light body. That's a better way to put it. Keep your light body free and clear of all interference, and make sure that it's really beautifully charged when you go into a space, so that you can do your best work there. And then also make sure that you're not in resonance with anything negative that might be there that might cause you problems, because if you're in resonance with something negative, sometimes you're not always protected. You know, make sure that you're working from the highest and best, working in the highest and best that you possibly can. And remember that no one works alone. So what that means is you're not the only one that needs to be there. You have a whole team, a whole posse of you know, help. So just recognize that you have help and that you can request assistance to kind of help you to stay safe and to help you to clear the grid patterns as well. I have an Ascension team that works specifically on doing grid work. So that's all they do. They're like specialists, and they come in and they help me do clearing. My team is a lot of other higher self, my more evolved versions of myself coming in. I also do have non-human alien help as well. And then I also do have elemental help that comes in occasionally as well. Most of the time, I don't really request specific people to come in. I just say, hey, I'm going to do this now. I could use some help, and they come. So that is really important. So I don't want to say, like, protect yourself, you're going to get in a lot of trouble, because that, when you start talking that way, you're just itching for a fight to come on. So don't put up your dukes. Just say, I want my field to be as bright and beautiful and saturated with frequency as it possibly can, so that I am vibrating at a high level and not in resonance with anything negative that might be around. Let's see, what else? Okay, just a quick side note about spiritual guides. It's very important to kind of know who you're talking to. So you want to make sure that you claim your sovereignty, and that you make sure to that everything that you're doing is in the best and highest good. Okay, that you come from that place of what we're doing is in the best and highest good, and you put ego to the side for the time, and make sure that that's your primary function. Because sometimes maybe just maybe you're not supposed to clear that space for whatever reason. So you just go ahead and intend to clear it, and that the best and highest good is going to happen, because we don't know what the big plan is, right? The work always needs to be done from a sense of service to humanity, to the planet, to our galactic brothers and sisters, to the universe as a whole. Don't get full of yourself like, hey, I just went and I did this here and I worked on this, and that's why it's now all this good stuff is happening there. It was me. I did it all by myself. I mean, I do see this a lot. We can get really egotistical about this kind of stuff. And that's not where we want to come from. That can create some kind of negative situations for us. So just recognize that you're here to serve. And stay humble and grateful for the opportunity to serve, and be grateful is a huge part of it. Just being in gratitude. I swear, when you just sit somewhere outside in nature and you just sit in gratitude, it clears the grids. In gratitude and love, it just clears the grids. It's kind of amazing. And that's pretty much it. So if anybody has any questions, I am here to answer them. So does anybody have any questions? I know I went over a lot. I don't even know what time it is, how long I've been here. So does anybody have questions? I will just hang out and be available to you for a little bit longer. And forgive the delay. It's like right now, it's like almost a minute. So if you do have a question, I'm not ignoring you. I just can't see it yet. What's that say? Shamazing. Please may I share this recording with my sisters. What recording is that? Sure. Whatever the recording is, you are welcome to share it.
She have to be in the group.
Oh, okay. Anybody have any questions at all? I'm going to wait another minute, and if not, Barbara, can you address sending energy to Earth's core, please? Sure. Yeah, absolutely. For me personally, that is something that kind of automatically happens. We're all connected into the Earth's core. I tend to focus on the crystal star that is at the Earth's core, because that's 5D. It's part of the 5D, and I always forget about the 3D aspect of Earth. So we are grounded into the planet. So we're grounded into the Earth's core, and sending energy into the Earth's core, because the Earth's core is actually, in actuality, what feeds the grid system. It creates and feeds the grid system. So I'm not sure exactly what you're looking for, Jody, but just when you are bringing energy into the grid system, it's important that you are connected into the core of the planet, that you're grounded into the core of the planet. I also like to ground into the galactic sun as well. I know it sounds weird to like ground up, but it's good to be connected to both because you're connecting into the earth, you know, Mother Gaia's core kind of heart center, if you will. But then you're also connecting into the galactic center as well. So that's really helpful. I hope, Jody, if there's anything specific you want me to talk about that, let me know. Mike Patterson, what is a good way to find PowerPoints? Oh my gosh. And how do you clear a false white light? Okay, Mike. So what's a good way to find PowerPoints? Again, you know, a lot of this stuff is mapped out, so you can actually look for in your specific location. In your specific location, you can probably most likely type in, you know, Eugene, Oregon, PowerPoints or ley lines, and see what comes up, and then we'll show you specific PowerPoints. You can, all you're looking for is where points intersect, or where more than one point or more than two lines intersect. The more intersections is the more powerful the point. So how can you tell if a PowerPoint is negative or positive? You have to feel it. You have to intuitively feel it. That's the only way that you can really do it. Now, a lot of people use dowsing rods, and if they go like this, it's negative. If they go like this, it's positive. So you can use your intention if you don't feel comfortable with your intuitive abilities yet, to figure out your rods, what you're, you know, this is good, this is not good. That would be my suggestion to you, is to get a pendulum or get dowsing rods, and learn your yes for a pendulum, which way is it spinning for yes, which way is it spinning for no, and find them that way if you're on a PowerPoint. So I hope that helps. How do you clear a false white light? That's super awesome. You just transmute it into gold light or whatever frequency you have that's more acceptable. If it's really thick and difficult to get rid of, I will actually create like a big golden like vacuum that vacuums it up and away. Everybody has different ways of doing that. If you do see false white light, and you can tell the difference as your frequency shifts and increases, you start to be able to tell the difference between false white light and regular white light, or even just, you know, different frequencies that are more beneficial and other ones that are not so beneficial. False white light is also what is used to create soul traps for people. So when they pass on and they like go to the light, you know, they go into this white light and they go into this whole soul trap system where you have to reincarnate and experience the same reality over and over and over again. So this is something that you can clear just by transmuting it or changing it into a different color. That's how I do it anyway. Maybe somebody else has a better method for doing it, but that's how I do it. I like to kind of take it over and shift it, or just completely get rid of it all. And again, just a reminder while I'm waiting for questions, if anybody has any other ones, that I am starting my mentorship program in the next few weeks. So if you're interested in that, thanks so much, honey. Thank you, my knuckles. Thanks, Josh. I just can't figure out how to use this darn iPad right now. I don't know why. But anyway, so I'm going to be starting those mentorship programs in the next couple of weeks. If you're interested, please private message me on Facebook or get a hold of me via my webpage, which is barbarabuck.org. It's really super easy. You can also message me from there.